Okay, so in this exercise we want to create a threshold policy called directory checker that's going to run a script called diskck.sh. The script is going to get passed a list of directories and it's going to retrieve the number of files in each directory and feed that back in as a metric. We want to have different thresholds for different objects. So let me just record getting you started with that. First thing we do is we create our monitoring threshold. So we go to Edit, Add Policy. The type of policy that we want to create is a measurement threshold. The name that we give it, and this is quite important because it has to match up with what we've typed into this script, the name has to be directory checker, and this is case sensitive. We then click on, so we'd have to give it a description, so we'll just say count files in directories. In the source field, we then specify that this is going to be a program type metric. So we select program from here. The short name, we're going to use the same, we'll call it directory checker. And the program that we want to run is /scripts/diskck.sh. So /scripts/diskck. Then we'll click on message defaults, and in here we'll put a message group in of Oracle, make sure it matches with our Oracle group. And then the next section we're going to create a threshold. So we want to have different thresholds if the file system or directory is D1, D2 or D3. So what we need to do is we click on thresholds. We're going to set this up as a maximum type threshold. And we tell it that we want to use instance filters. So we click on use instance filters and we set it to yes. And then for each instance we specify the thresholds that we want. So we're going to put in here match D1 thresholds. The object pattern that we want to match here is that the object fed in starts with /d1 and ends with /d1. So /d1 ends with /d1. And in the instance behavior, we're going to tell it that we want to stop evaluating once it matches all the conditions that have this object pattern. So these are the only thresholds we want to compare /d1 against. We click it there. So now we've got our instance set up for D1. The next thing we need to do is we need to come over here. So just where it says match, just beneath the instance that we've just configured, click on the actions and say add threshold. So we put one threshold in, so the threshold we're going to put in is, in this case it's critical, so we're going to say critical threshold 15. The threshold that we want to put in is 15, and when that threshold is breached we're going to generate a critical message, and the critical message is going to say threshold has been breached. And when the threshold drops below, when the threshold has reset itself, then we go to end action and we'll say we'll create a new end action. So define a special end action. Again, we'll give it a message group of Oracle. And in there we'll say the threshold has reset. Okay. So just to recap, we've created an instance for D1. We've put one threshold in. In the exercise, we're suggesting you do a couple of other conditions, so you have a major and a minor. I'm just going to go on now and set up the instance filters for D2. So what we need to do is we need to come down here, and we say add instance filter. Just do it there. And then if we click on this blue square, it will then highlight that in the screen for me. So down in the instance filter here, we say match D2 instances. And this time the object pattern that we want to match is that it starts with /D2 and ends with /D2. And then again, to start putting some thresholds in, we click down here. So we click at this point here, select the Add Threshold option, and here we'll say Match Critical Threshold. And the critical threshold we're going to set to, in this case for D2, we want to set the threshold to 10. So again, we go to Start Action. We'll create a critical message. We make sure it's got a message group field of Oracle. And then we'll say critical threshold has been breached. And so on. So that's just a quick demonstration to get you started. I'm just going to stop the recorder now.